Welcome into I Said What I Said. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentry. This is our Week 7 college football picks episode. Huge slate. Tyson and I are excited, not just to bet on it, but this weekend is going to be an awesome one, coming off of a huge upset galore last weekend, man. So you're going to be able to sit back, and you had something going on last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I got my home team here, has their homecoming here, Go Grizz, so I'll be at that football game. I'll be streaming everything. This is the one thing that Washington Grizzly Stadium does better than anywhere else I've been in the country. The Wi-Fi works in there, so I can have the games on ESPN Plus while I'm watching in real time.
Yeah, that is absolutely nice. But Tyson, before we get into Week 7, you know the drill, folks. We got to recap what just took place last weekend, and honestly, pretty good week for us. I went 7-6. You know, I throw plays out here, a couple here and there that I thought could get home. Up 0.37 in totality. SMU Louisville over 56 crushed. Tulane UAB over 55.5 was a non-sweater with Tulane scoring 70. Clemson minus 14.5. Tyson and I got the better end of that number, so we both hit there. Coastal Carolina minus 5 was Sweaty got home. Boise State sweaty at the end because they took out the starters, but they covered 26.5. Iowa State rocking chair play minus 12.5, and Kansas Arizona State over 50.5. Love to get those home. Play of the week didn't get there for me. Penn State minus 27.5. Nick Singleton ruled out right before kick, so that hurt their offense. They weren't able to do anything in this look-ahead spot. Missouri might have been the worst play I've had all year, maybe in the past 3. They get absolutely embarrassed on the road against Texas A&M. Northern Illinois couldn't get over the 16.5. That was a tough pill to swallow. Georgia minus 22. Thought we had a few chances to blow it open and just never got there. Tennessee minus 13.5. They lose outright, so that was ugly. And then Texas Tech, Arizona over 64. You look at the final score, and you're like, that wasn't close. Folks, if you watch that game, Arizona was in the red zone, kicked 2 field goals. They were just knocking on the door, so we couldn't get that home, which was frustrating. But, made some money, so we'll take it this weekend.
And I went 5-3, up 2.63 units on the week. Play of the week, Michigan State plus 23.5. That was dicey for a second. Syracuse money line. That was really where the money comes in for the most part this week. And that was an overtime. That was a sweat, and that was the most fun I had all week. And Clemson minus 14.5. You mentioned it. This game wasn't even close, and it also felt like we weren't going to cover for most of it.
Oh, my God.
Washington money line. They did their best to give me a heart attack at the end of the game there. Indiana minus 13.5. Believe in Sig. UConn minus 16.5. They only won by 9. I felt like there was a chance a time or two throughout that football game for us to get this number. They just didn't do it. You mentioned the Georgia thing. I missed on that as well. And then my worst read this week was UCF going into the swamp and taking down Florida. I don't know if Florida's back, but KJ Jefferson sucks, dude. I'm done.
So on the year, I am down 4.62 units. Tyson's down 2.86 after a big weekend. As a show, we're down 7.48. But, we started off slow, and honestly, we're climbing back. And so we're looking to get right this weekend. And Tyson, you know what that means? It's time to look ahead, baby.
It's money-making time.
Let's get into it. And Tyson, you got the T-box, man. You won the week, and so you get to go first and lead off with the play of the week.
I feel like I always got the T-box. Even when you do better than me, you just want to watch it drive just so you know maybe we're not to hit it. But my play of the week here, Brad, is something I know that you want to happen and you might not be on with me. I'm going with play of the week, Penn State minus 3.5. They are going to run the football down USC's throat. Nick Singleton is progressing towards playing, which is huge. I think they need him here to cover this number, but I do think, we've seen Minnesota, we've seen Michigan, we've seen pretty much everybody for the last 3 years run the football on this USC defense, and it's a little different this year. Penn State's a little different beast than they've had to see so far. Maybe Drew Allar gets a couple bombs here on some play action stuff to open things up. We talked about it on the preview show, a little bit worried about quick game stuff and over the middle of the field from USC, but I do think that Penn State's defense will be able to adapt. This is just a game where maybe USC is not able to out-athlete somebody, and that's really the only way that they are able to win on offense because they can't just hand the ball to Woody Marks. If that was their offense, I'd be a little bit more afraid. Miller Moss is throwing this thing 50 times, and Penn State's taking this home.
Love the play. I got my Penn State hat on. It's a big weekend. I got my Penn State shirt on, so I got to rep everything. But I didn't have the balls to take this. I'm just going to be sitting back and either enjoying this if Penn State rolls like Tyson thinks, or I'm going to be super pissed. So either way, I'm not going to have a financial position on it. But I like where Tyson says that there. my play of the week, it's coming Friday. I'm taking Maryland minus 10.5. It's minus 106 on FanDuel. They're playing Northwestern. Maryland is off a bye. This offense, honestly, without Talia Tungavailoa there, you thought they'd take a step back. The offense looks pretty good, especially through the air. I mean, they're 21st in pass EPA, going up against a defense Northwestern that's 90th in the country in that metric. And also, Maryland's been able to run the football, man. They're 40th in rush EPA, going up against a defense that's 63rd. I mean, we saw what Indiana was able to do to them. Now, Northwestern on the flip side, they're able to move the ball a bit. I mean, I was pretty impressed by them, but the metrics, it doesn't necessarily scream that they're a good offensive team. They're 114th in rush EPA, 91st in pass EPA. Maybe they found their groove a little bit, but Maryland off a bye is 37th and 39th in those metrics. So I think they roll here with time to prep for shutting down this offense and attacking this defense.
I don't hate that at all. Brad, this next one here, I'm doing something a little scary, and I'm taking Oklahoma in the points against Texas. Texas defense is awesome. This is a freshman quarterback. This is the spot that he can't handle. I know all that stuff. I think that they're going to backdoor this thing. I think that weird stuff happens in the Red River rivalry shootout, whatever we're allowed to call it these days. The only other play I considered here was the team total under for Oklahoma, and that's where I'm at with this game. We have been screwed for the last 3 years going one way or the other. I'm fading my gut when it comes to this game, and you know what? I'm taking the dog in the points.
Well, Tyson and I are going to go mano-a-mano because he's got 14.5. I'm laying 14. I bought it down, minus 122 on DraftKings. I just don't know how Oklahoma is going to score the football. I mean, all 5 of their wide receivers are going to be out. Like, their 5 main guys are out of this, and they're 57th in rush EPA, 85th in pass EPA. I don't know how they're going to move the football against this Texas defense that's 9th and 3rd in those metrics. Quinn Ewers is back. I know some people, when it was Arch Manning, like, well, offensively, I think it can take a step forward because he's more athletic than Ewers. But not really impressive last week against a Mississippi State defense that leaves a lot to be desired. So I think with Ewers back, this offense now goes to the next level. They're already 16th in rush EPA, 3rd in pass EPA. Now, where I do get a little nervous is Oklahoma's defense is really good, 7th and 19th in those categories. So I'm just banking on the fact that I don't think that, and I got the wrong thing up here, of course. I'm just banking on the fact here that Texas is going to be able to move the football and score, and Oklahoma is not going to be able to. And so that's Tyson. We're going mano-a-mano. Hasn't necessarily played out very good for me, but this is the way I'm taking it.
I might have to make this like the biggest unit player of the week because I do pretty well against you in college football. I get smoked when it comes to the big boys in the NFL. Brad, the next one, we heard you people. We haven't been playing the fun games and the big ones. Well, I'm on Ohio State against Oregon. This is 2 versus 3 in the country, and I don't think it feels that way. There's a little boost here on DraftKings that can get you at minus 2.5 all the way up to plus 116. That's a number that I'm comfortable with and one that I am going to play myself here. I think that Ohio State rolls. I know it's an impossible place to play, and I really think the world of Dan Lanning and what he's done at this program. I also think that Ohio State is just a little underrated nationally, which is weird to say about the number 2 team in the country right now. But I think they've looked like the best. They look like the freaking juggernaut right now, and I don't know. Oregon has not to me. Oregon hasn't covered a number in what feels like years at this point. That Oregon State game was a long time ago. I think Ohio State throws the ball wherever they want to, and they win this football game.
So just for show purposes, I'm putting this up. It's minus 14 for Texas, minus 110 on DraftKings. So if you're watching on YouTube, I had the wrong graphic up, but just get everybody straight. Minus 14, minus 110 on DraftKings. Tyson's taken the hook on his side of things with Oklahoma. It's plus 14.5, minus 110 on MGM. So there's a chance, I push. Tyson wins by the hook. We'll see what happens. I think you're going to be pissed at me at this play. I'm kind of pissed at myself, but I have to take it. I'm taking Missouri, laying the points, minus 27. Minus 112 on DraftKings, facing UMass. So we just ripped them apart in our reaction show earlier in the week. If you're kind of curious what our thoughts are about the upsets or kind of the state of college football and where we stand through 6 weeks, we didn't hold any punches on calling Missouri out. Like, they completely have underperformed this season. But UMass is not good. I mean, the offense has been able to move the ball a little bit, but Tyson, they're still 117th in rush EPA, 118th in pass EPA. This Missouri defense was exposed last week against Texas A&M. But even win those games, with that game included, they're 35th and 35th in rush EPA and pass EPA on defense. Like, it's still a solid unit, especially playing a UMass team that's not good on offense. And I don't think Missouri is going to have a hard time moving this football. Like the defense that they're going up against is not A&M's. It's not Elko. Missouri's 20th in rush EPA, 39th in pass EPA, going up against a team that's 118th and 91st in those metrics. So this is a play I just have to take.
And one that I have to take here, Bowling Green minus 2.5. We were big Northern Illinois guys. They knock off Notre Dame. Feels good. You mentioned those UMass Minutemen. Bowling Green beat them by 14, which isn't necessarily the most impressive thing in the world, but Bowling Green has done well this year with some of these smaller numbers. They've had a problem covering some of these bigger spreads here. It's like two teams from the middle of nowhere, essentially, that have played D1 schedules to this point, and they're kind of settling back into the conference flow of things here. I think Bowling Green's look better. I know Northern Illinois won a giant game, but I'm on Bowling Green here. I think they win this game by a touchdown, and it's a sweat the entire way, but I do think they get it done.
Tyson, I hate myself for this next play, but again, this is a principal play. I have to take it. Iowa minus 2.5, minus 110 on FanDuel against Washington. Now, Washington, again, this is a narrative play a little bit too. They pull off a huge upset against Michigan. They're feeling good. Everybody's loving them. But this is the Big Ten. This isn't the Pac-12 anymore. Like, you don't get to go on the road and face a bad Pac-12 team. Like, you got to play with the big boys. And Iowa's not very good when we look at their offense. But that defense plays. The offense is physical. And it's a whole different beast when you got to bang with Michigan, turn around and go bang with Iowa. And I don't know if Washington's equipped to do that. Power ratings-wise, this has it at -6 and -7.5. Iowa's 14th in rush EPA, 119th in pass EPA. So kind of throw out the horrible offense. I think they're going to want to run the football. Washington's 50th in defending the rush on an EPA basis. And on the flip side here, Washington's offense, there's 42nd in running the ball on an EPA basis. Iowa's 17th in stopping that, or at least on an EPA per basis on defense. Now, where Washington has an advantage, they're 16th in pass EPA. They've done a good job. Will Rogers coming over. Iowa's 23rd, and that includes getting shredded up by an Ohio State passing attack that features an elite offensive weapons, something that I don't think Washington has. So I think this is a classic grinded-out game by Iowa. They are going to run the football, control clock. I think they're going to be efficient when they get down into the red zone and do enough on defense to pull off this one and stop Washington's momentum.
The under in this game is 41.5, which I think is pretty interesting look here as well, because if Iowa wins the game, you can pair those two things up, because if they win this football game, I don't know if it goes over 41.5. My next one here, I'm laying a huge number here. I think that the over hits in this LSU Ole Miss game. These are two teams that combined throw for about 700 yards a game on average. Ole Miss rush defense is really good, and they've kind of answered the bell there. Doesn't matter this week. LSU wants to throw the football. That's what they're going to do. It's in Death Valley. We're going to get some wild stuff. There's just, I can picture it right now, and I know you can too, that we can get 14 points here in 2 minutes. Just boom, 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 up and down the field. I know you don't want to admit it, brother, but I think this thing is flying over. Give me Nuss and the boys to keep up with Jackson Dart here. I don't want to make an actual call on this football game because I don't want to hurt my own feelings. But I will point out to people out there who are interested in a little LSU money line, LSU's 12-0 in Saturday night games under Brian Kelly. It's 12-0. They played some really good teams. The 16-1 at home period under Brian Kelly. This is a game that LSU needs, Ole Miss needs, and they're going to do what they do best, and that's score the football.
Well, this is the second game that Tyson and I are going head-to-head on, because I'm taking under 62.5. That's -115 on FanDuel. So, again, there's a chance that, one of us pushes, one of us wins by the hook. That's why we shop around and try to get the best numbers, what we're looking for here. So, Tyson's mentioned it, and I will readily admit I can see 14 points in 2 minutes. I mean, these are explosive offenses when it comes to it, but Ole Miss's defense is much improved. They're metrically – we broke this game down on our reaction show, kind of looking ahead to our playbook preview that we do earlier in the week. And so I'm not going to go all the way into it, but Brian Kelly talked about how he wants to run the football. He thinks that's actually benefiting the defense. It's preventing teams from just being able to score the ball on them. I think they try to do that here. This is also an Ole Miss offense that likes to keep the ball in play. High percentage passes, high percentage receptions. Trey Harris is hurt, so I think that takes an element of explosivity out of it. This, to me, screams, let's keep the ball in play on both sides. We know Nussmeier's an accurate quarterback. And what have we been pounding the table saying? These new college football rules, it's hard. This number is huge when we look at the defenses that are on the field. So I think the offenses can put up points, But Tyson, this could be like 8-minute drive NFL style that we're looking at here. So I'll risk it, especially in this tough environment.
I would take that if it results in an LSU victory. I mean, the home teams in this series are dominant. It's like 10-2 over the last 12. I think 9-1 over the last 10. So that part of me is feeling pretty good about this game. But I have to do the 62.5 because Ole Miss might score 70, and I just can't take that and lose. Can't lose the game and lose my money here. My last one for the week for me, if you've been following for a while, you know my card's normally a little bit smaller than Brad's. I'm ending my card here. Kansas State -3.5 at Colorado. Colorado's off to buy all this stuff. Kansas State's going to run, much like Penn State, they're going to run the football. They're going to run the football. They're going to run the football. And Colorado's not going to be able to answer, not going to be able to sustain drives and keep that defense alive. I think it is body blow after body blow here for Kansas State that results in the floodgates open. Yes. And I think Kansas State is just they're going to run the ball 40, 50 times this game.
Yeah, this is a game I'm super interested in. I mean, Tyson, doesn't it feel weird that like Colorado gets all the praise in the world when they haven't done anything and they actually like have like a good stretch where you're like, no, that's impressive and nobody's talking about it.
No,
like,
which is
how
nice,
is it so backwards?
Doesn't this? It feels good that they're under the radar a little bit. It makes you feel like maybe this team can win the Big 12 or can sneak in to the playoff or one of these big bowls. I mean, we talk about them like they suck, and I'm guilty of it more than anybody else in the country probably. They're sitting here with a pretty nice record. If they beat Kansas State this weekend, then we're having a conversation. There's a number next to their name at least.
Oh, they'd be 3-0 in Big 12 play. I mean, they're shooing to get into the conference title at that point, you'd think. But, okay, so that's the end of Tyson's cards. What I normally do with my scraps and my leftovers, I like to kind of see where he's at or his thoughts on my plays. Since Tyson – I said the dirty word under, and you guys know I don't necessarily like playing that. You know, we like to have fun when we're betting, and I try to find some spots so I can root for points. So that was the first time I played an under all season. I'm going to 2 overs here. The first one's Washington State, Fresno State over 61. That's -110 on DraftKings. If you watch Fresno State against UNLV, that was just a disastrous display of their offense. But that's against a UNLV team that actually has a good defense, pretty good secondary, good metrically. Now, this Washington State team gives up points. I think what they're looking at on paper, 49th and 44th in defending the run and the pass respectively in EPA on an EPA basis. I think that's a little overstated. I mean, we just saw multiple teams run up and down on their defense throughout the season. Now, Fresno's offense leaves much to be desired. It's 86 in rush EPA, 81st in pass EPA. That's been on display for them. But this is an offense that can take the next step with Mikey Keene at quarterback, can score points, move the ball. It's all about being efficient. That's something they've struggled to do. But on the flip side, Washington State's offense is a wagon. 21st in rush EPA, 22nd in pass EPA, going up against a defense that's 62nd and 59th in rush and pass EPA. Now, Tyson, here's the kicker for me. You know I love pulling this. Explosives. We need explosive plays to get over these numbers, especially with the new clock. Washington State's defense, 109th in the equal rate versus an offense at 66. So even though Fresno State, you know, they're metrically, it's not anything impressive. They are able to put some explosive plays together. And then Fresno State's defense, 66 in equal, going up against an offense in Washington State that's 29th in producing those plays. So I think we can see points here.
I think Fresno State might be your favorite team in the country.
I like the jerseys. I like the helmets.
You can't get away from these guys.
Well, how about this one? App State, Louisiana over 64.5. That's -110 on FanDuel. Speaking of a team that I can't get over, it's App State, and they're horrible. So I'm not playing them. I'm playing just how bad they are. The priors on them coming into the season were off by just about everybody. Get these numbers, Tyson. App State's defense, 124th and 123rd in rush EPA and passing allowed. It's just atrocious. Now they got to face this Louisiana team that's 33rd and 41st respectively in those categories. Like, they're going to score points. Then on the other end, like, we look at this App State team, we thought their offense was going to be good. It's been anything but. 104th in rush EPA, 110th in pass EPA. But there's potential there. I mean, there's just no way they're going to be that bad all season long. Like, I refuse to believe it. And if there's a time, this is it. Facing a Louisiana defense that's 101st in rush EPA allowed and 77th in pass EPA per allowed. This could be like a track meet. We see plays going up and down the field. Louisiana 5th in equal, going up against a defense that's 102nd. I mean, my goodness. And then App State, yeah, they're 82nd in equal. Hasn't been great on explosive plays, but a defense that allows it that's 87th in the country. So I think this was close to be my play of the week, but it's such a big number. I couldn't do that to the people listening.
This kind of feels like a DeSormo special, though. Like maybe they just scored 1 billion points. App State had to have a hurricane just to get away from you a couple weeks ago because you keep picking against these poor guys. Have you missed yet on App State? I don't think so.
Well, I don't know. I hit their over on. I think maybe one time, and it was like they got
something
blown
weird
out.
in like the Eastern Carolina game or something.
Oh, that was South Alabama.
There we go.
They won me the East Carolina game by like they should not have won, but South Alabama they got trounced. That was comical. Tyson, my next one here. I'm going back to Tennessee, minus 14. Now, this is the graphic that was up before. I bought it down. It's minus 122 on DraftKings. They look bad against Arkansas. Everybody's kind of off of them a little bit. But how do they go from laying 14 on the road to now laying 14 at home against a Florida team that everybody said their head coach should have been fired 3 weeks into the season? Makes no sense. I mean, this, to me, I'm looking at right here, like this line is off. Tennessee's offense, yeah, it did not look good against an Arkansas team last week, especially off a bye. It was shocking. But they're first in rush EPA, sixth in pass EPA. Going up against the Florida defense, 61st and 44th in those categories. Now, Florida's offense has looked a little bit better recently. I'm not buying in UCF's defense. We crushed that over. We took their game against Colorado. Florida's offense, 66th in rush EPA, 87th in pass EPA. Going up against the defense, it's 5th defending the rush, 50th in defending the pass in the EPA basis, Tyson. I think this is where Tennessee runs it. Yes, these games are crazy. Whenever it's Florida, it always feels like Florida always comes up with an upset. They're checkering out the stadium. This has disaster written all over it. But give me Tennessee to lay the wood here and remind people of who they are.
Dude, they're going to look like a supercar to Florida after dealing with that UCF offense, like a minivan or something a week ago. And with the checkered stadium, checkered all that stuff, just people remember that at one point in time, Vern Lundquist was calling a game on CBS and said there's a flag in the end zone. there was just a 5x5 orange square. We miss you, Vern.
Arizona plus 3.5, minus 115 on MGM. Tyson, I'm not breaking anything down on a power ratings basis, on an EPA per play basis. This is the good old-fashioned gut pick. I don't know why I'm doing it. I'm going against BYU. We swore off going against BYU. I'm stepping into all the nonsense here. Arizona's got to go to Utah after a disastrous showing against Texas Tech where it was frustrating. They were 6.5-point favorites, looking like they were going to be back into the Big 12 picture after beating Utah, and they lay an egg. People are doubting them. People don't think they're very good anymore. BYU's overachieved. I mean, we're talking BYU is supposed to be one of the worst teams in the Big 12. Now they're freaking the 15th, 14th ranked team in the country. Are we sure about that? Arizona, last time I checked, still has a first-round wide receiver. They still have a first-round cornerback. They still have a first-round right tackle. Like, this is an offense that's poised to take things to the next level. Hasn't happened yet. A lot of people in Tucson kind of questioning Brent Brennan and the way they do things on offense. Changing play caller. Dino Babers no longer calling the plays. It's a new guy. Hoping that kind of gets things moving forward. It worked against Utah. Didn't necessarily come to fruition against Texas Tech. I think it comes to fruition here. Arizona are the ranked upset kings when they go to the state of Utah, and then we just keep that thing going.
That's true. They're kicking themselves that this is the last game they have where they have to go there. I was going to say, altitude and all that stuff, and then I remember they just put the boots to my boys. Actually, a better team. I think that Utah versus BYU on a neutral is Utah's favorite. So, look, I'm never going to go against the gut play. That's all I do.
All right, last two plays for me here, Tyson. They're both overs, of course. Cincy, UCF over 58.5. I mean, God, has anybody been watching UCF? That defense is atrocious. I mean, yeah, they didn't necessarily give up a ton of points to Florida, but is anybody writing home about Florida's offense? No. Cincy, though, Tyson, man, they can put up points. Scott Satterfield, 30th in pass EPA. They're 86th in the rush EPA. Versus a defense that's 86th in defending the pass on an EPA basis. Like this to me has Cincinnati being able to throw the rock all over UCF, just like Colorado was able to do a couple of weeks ago. Then UCF, they're 24th in pass EPA. I know you're taking shots at KJ Jefferson, but when they decide to throw the football, like it normally works out pretty well, especially against this defense at 79th. Yeah, that's true. That's where we're a little nervous here, Tyson. But on a net play basis, UCF is 67th on the defensive side. I think since he's going to be able to score points, UCF's offense is 14th in the explosive rate and Eckel. This to me has fireworks show written all over it.
This is like the immovable object versus the whatever. Whatever. I'm messing up all my sayings, but whatever. Cincinnati games in October never go over, and UCF games never go under. So it's just like, who's going to win out here?
Last one, Memphis, South Florida over 60.5 minus 112 on DraftKings. Now I'm going back to the well with South Florida, Tyson, and I'm going back to the well with Memphis. I will say, I'll preface it by saying I'm a little nervous because Memphis likes to run the football. They're 30th in rush EPA. They've kind of figured out that that's their strength. Surprisingly, with Henniger there, they're 89th in pass EPA. Like, what's going on? This used to be a high-flying, throw it all over the yard type of offense. It's been the opposite. They're running the football. But if there's ever a time to get back for Memphis, it's against the South Florida defense. 94th in rush EPA, 126th in pass EPA. I say it all the time. This has to be when Memphis strikes. This has to be the Memphis game. No, this has to be when Memphis offense explodes. And on the other side, Tyson, South Florida's been a little disappointing. I think a lot disappointing after that Alabama game. 73rd in rush EPA, 112th in pass EPA. Not great, but it's not like Memphis's defense is anything special. 68th in rush EPA, 89th in pass EPA. So I think we can see South Florida actually move the ball a little bit here. I know they're supposed to do that against Tulane. It didn't happen, and all that good stuff when I bit the dust on it. But I'm taking Memphis, I think, really to carry this thing. They're 18th in Eckel against a defense that's 84th in allowing explosive plays. Maybe Memphis scores 42, 45. Maybe they get the 50 burger and South Florida comes through with 21 points, something like that. But this is going over.
I mean, South Florida's shown us like 3 times this season. They don't even have to score the ball for some of these overs to hit. So I don't mind this one.
Well, another loaded card for me, man. I think we're starting to figure some things out. I mean, we kind of recycle some of the same things. So we're 6 weeks in and we're like getting some more priors and all that good stuff. But Tyson, I can't believe we're almost halfway through the season.
I know, and this was the week everybody had scheduled before the year started. This is the big one. Last week kind of put a damper on some of those matchups, like Penn State USC. USC just wins that football game. We're talking about a top 10 matchup maybe after the way that last week fell. And now all of a sudden USC is out of the top 25. Oregon doesn't look good. Seen enough college football in my day to know that whatever people thought preseason doesn't mean a thing. And these games are going to be a ton of fun. And we're going to be playing live stuff. And the only place you can find that is in our Discord. The group name is I Said What I Said. Tons of different channels in there. NFL, college football, NHL just started back up. MLB baseball playoffs are here. We're almost done with those. Brad, how many teams are left?
Well, there's a game 5 on Saturday between the Tigers and Guardians.
And then what's the NL looking like?
Well,
no, I'm just playing, people. I'm just being mean. Go Mets. I don't need to make them do it. But we're betting everything and anything, and we want to know what you're playing too. Let's get some crazy parlays home this weekend, huh?
Absolutely. That's what we're looking for. And there's boosts every weekend. And I'm going to play a couple things here. You know, DraftKings, FanDuel gives them out some boosts on that. So definitely, like Tyson said, hit that, join in our bio. The link's right in there. And like, subscribe, and share. In the meantime, we got our NFL episode coming out where I'm connecting the Phillies loss to a play that I have. And so I was going to give Tyson his flowers there. He wanted to jump the gun a little bit. That's okay. That's know, what we do. Mets fans, they don't have a lot of root for in the last decade. Nope. So they got to do something here. I understand it completely. But that's why you got to stay connected to us. Stay subscribed. You're watching on YouTube. You know, you get a notification when we put something out. Like the show, helps us out and helps us become more discoverable. And share what you're playing in the chat, actually. Like, put it in the comments. Like, if you got a lock, what's your play of the week? We want to know, man. And then share the show with your friends. Share it with an enemy. Let them discover us and help us grow. We really do appreciate you guys being an audience with us. Like I said, NFL show coming later. We'll talk to you guys then. Peace.